Thanks to all who have dialed into the teleconference for standing by. Welcome to the open meeting of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. During the call, you will be in listen-only mode. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and a recording is expected to be made available on the Pcaob website. I would now like to turn to Acting Chairperson Dispardi to formally convene the meeting.
Good morning and welcome everyone to our teleconference. This is an open meeting of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board on November 23rd, 2021. I will note for the record that board members Ho and Stein are participating in this meeting and that we are able to hear one another. We are also joined by our division and office leaders who are available to address any questions that the board may have. Today, the board will take up a recommendation to approve the Pcaob's 2022 budget in accordance with Section 109B of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. Before we proceed, I do want to convey how delighted I am to be here with board member Christina Ho and board member Kara Stein, and how much I look forward to working with them and with our new board chair, Erica Williams, and board member Tony Thompson once they are sworn in shortly after the new year. Now, turning to the agenda. Under Section 109B of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, the board is required to establish a budget for each fiscal year no later than 1 month prior to the beginning of the fiscal year and to submit it to the Securities and Exchange Commission for approval. As the board's fiscal year follows the calendar year, we are here today to meet this requirement. Holly Greaves, our Chief Financial Officer and Acting Chief Administrative Officer, will be presenting staff's recommendation. Jim Hearn, our Budget Officer, will be joining her as needed for questions. Before turning to them, I will highlight that given the new board has not yet been fully seated, the 2002 budget reflects resources for the Pcaob to carry out its mandated audit oversight responsibilities and to achieve the goals and objectives as set forth in its existing strategic plan. Once the new board is fully in place, we will be reassessing our strategic goals and objectives and making adjustments in our resources as necessary to support any updated priorities or initiatives. Any such resource changes will be made in coordination with the SEC and in accordance with their budget rule. I will now turn to Holly Greaves to present the staff's recommendation. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson and members of the board. I am pleased to provide just a brief overview of the Pcaob's 2022 budget, which is the result of collaborative efforts throughout the organization for much of the past year. The budget is organized so that the resource needs and performance measures of each division and office are mapped to the goals and objective of the board's strategic plan. The budget for 2022 is $310.3 million, which is compared to $287.3 million for 2021. The increase in 2022 principally reflects cost escalation for inflation, additional staff positions primarily to support inspections and standard setting activities, and increased travel costs in anticipation of travel resuming in 2022 after being halted given the pandemic. The largest component of the Pcaob's budget is personnel costs. This includes salaries, benefits, taxes, training, and recruitment costs. For 2022, these costs total $230.6 million, accounting for nearly 3/4 of the budget. This resource level assumes 891 positions will be filled by the end of 2022, which compares to 859 positions provided for in the 2021 budget. This additional staffing is primarily in our inspections function to help us make progress on certain international inspections deferred during the pandemic, to increase focus on emerging risks and further improve the relevance and timeliness of our inspection reports and other information we share about audit quality. I'll turn now to non-personnel costs. For rent and other facilities costs, including capital expenditures, the budget provides $20 million, and this represents 6% of the 2022 budget. Consulting and professional fees are $18.9 million, and this accounts for another 6% of the budget. The information technology expense category, which includes costs for things such as software licenses and network and telecommunication services, is $16.6 million, or 5% of the budget. The 2022 budget includes $15.4 million in travel-related costs, which account for 5% of the budget. Inspections-related travel account for the majority of our travel costs. And finally, the administrative expenses category, which includes items such as subscription and library, business insurance, and event costs, are $8.8 million. Administrative expenses make up the remainder of the budget, or 3%. Our budgeted costs are funded through the accounting support fee assessed on issuers and brokers and dealers. The accounting support fee associated with the 2022 budget is $298 million. Consistent with prior years and as provided for in our budget rule, the accounting support fee is structured to provide the PCAOB with an estimated 5 months of an operating reserve at the end of 2022. The share of the accounting support fee for issuers is $267 million, and the portion allocated to brokers and dealers is $31 million. I would like to conclude by expressing my appreciation for the combined effort of all of our colleagues throughout the PCAOB in developing the 2022 budget. The budget does require input from across the organization, and I'm so grateful for everyone's engagement and support. I would also like to note my appreciation for the guidance in developing the 2022 budget from our colleagues at the SEC, particularly those in the Office of the Chief Accountant. With that, Mr. Chairperson, I recommend that the board adopt the 2022 budget substantially in the form before you in accordance with Section 109B of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. I'm also happy to answer any questions that you or the board may have.
Thank you, Holly. At this time, my fellow board members and I will have the opportunity to make a statement or ask questions to the staff. We will proceed in the order of seniority, and I will begin. While I am pleased to support the PCAOB's 2022 budget, independent and consistently high-quality financial statement audits are essential in helping ensure relevant, reliable financial reporting for our capital markets. The PCAOB's oversight of public company audits is critical in driving continuous improvement in audit quality for the protection of investors. The 2022 budget provides us the resources to continue to deliver and enhance our mandated standard setting, inspections, and enforcement responsibilities, as well as to further optimize our business processes and culture. Of course, we cannot succeed without our staff. We are fortunate to have a team of highly dedicated and highly capable professionals. The 2022 budget supports our commitment to further develop, empower, and meaningfully engage our people and further cultivate a high-integrity, collaborative, and inclusive culture. Of note, the budget provides for additional resources in certain areas, including targeted staffing increases in our standard setting and inspections programs. Additional staffing in the Office of the Chief Auditor will provide increased capacity to further advance our standard setting and research projects, including our important quality control and data and technology projects. And the funding will support our increased and continuing assessment of environmental, social, and governance assurance matters. Additional staffing in the Division of Registration and Inspections will allow us to devote increased focus to emerging risks, continue to improve the relevance and timeliness of our inspection reporting and other information that we share about audit quality, and make progress on certain international inspections deferred during the pandemic. As stewards of the fees collected to fund our efforts, we must operate as effectively and efficiently as possible. It is important, therefore, that we continue to optimize our program effectiveness, our internal processes, and our information technology investments. I have reviewed the spending amounts reflected in the 2022 budget, and I believe that they are appropriate and reasonable. In the months to come, I look forward to conferring with my new board colleagues in reassessing our strategic objectives and priorities, and to working together alongside our staff in further fulfilling the PCAOB's essential mission. I thank everyone at the PCAOB involved in completing this year's budget, especially Holly, Jim, and the rest of their budget and finance team, and for the leaders of each of the divisions and offices. I also thank the SEC, especially in the Office of the Chief Accountant, for their input and direction. Finally, I want to thank the entire PCAOB staff for their collaboration and partnership this past year, and especially for the tremendous support that they have provided me these past 6 months as acting chair. With that, I will now turn to board members Ho and Stein for any statements they may wish to make or questions that they would like to pose to staff. Christina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dwayne. Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to take a moment to say that I'm honored to join the PCAOB and that I'm looking forward to working with my fellow board members and the PCAOB's talented and committed staff. I also want to thank Dwayne for his leadership during this transition period. I appreciate his open and collaborative approach. I'm sure his knowledge and transparency provided the PCAOB staff the steady leadership during a time of uncertainty. I'm pleased to support the PCAOB's 2022 budget as my first vote at an open meeting. The budget is foundational to the PCAOB's operations because it allocates resources to implement the board's mission of improving audit quality and protecting investors. It also provides an opportunity for the board to transparently convey to the public some of our priorities and how those priorities will be realized through the funding of our programs. As you have heard, there is an increase in the 2022 budget from the 2021 budget. The increase allows us to direct more resources to our inspection program, our standard setting efforts, and our engagement with stakeholders, among other things. All of these programs are important to the fulfillment of our mission. I would also like to take a moment to highlight some of the opportunities that I, as a new board member, see for the PCAOB. In particular, I'm interested in working with the board to identify ways to advance data-driven decision-making across our programs, including inspections, enforcement, and standard setting. The PCAOB collects large amounts of data through its inspections and other processes. By leveraging PCAOB's data, as well as data made publicly available by the SEC and others, we may be able to more effectively inform standard-setting priorities and predict the risk of audit deficiencies and violations. As a result, we could use our resources more efficiently to further improve audit quality and protect investors. I'm looking forward to exploring these ideas with my fellow board members and our staff. Finally, I thank the PCAOB staff for completing the 2022 budget and the SEC for their feedback and collaboration. I look forward to working together to advance our mission of protecting investors and promoting public trust in financial disclosures. I fully support the adoption of the 2022 budget.
Thank you, Christina. Kara, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Dwayne. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor and a privilege to join my fellow board members this morning. This is also my first vote as a PCAOB board member, and I'm pleased that it will be in support of the PCAOB's budget submission to the Securities and Exchange Commission. I wanted to thank, in particular, Acting Chair Dasparty and his staff for all of their hard work on this budget document. I want to thank the heads of each division, but in particular, the staff from the Office of Administration, Holly Greaves, Jim Hearn, Alfredo Azokar, Yos Misagia, and Marcia Saavedra, who worked particularly hard on this document. The 2022 budget highlights how very important people are to the PCAOB's mission. As my colleagues have mentioned, almost 3/4 of the resources that we are requesting in our budget submission are for personnel, for people. And it is the people at the PCAOB who work day in and day out to improve audit quality on behalf of investors and our capital markets. I also, as my colleagues have pointed out, am very supportive of the additional resources allocated in the budget for completing new audit standards, researching further uses of data and technology, as my colleague Christina just mentioned, and evaluating developments in the ESG metrics and assurance space. I'm also very pleased that the budget recommits funds towards investor and other stakeholder outreach, both for events and in particular advisory group activities. This is critically important to our mission of protecting investors and the integrity of the capital markets, is having a transparent and open communication with different participants in the capital markets. Although I'm supporting today's proposed budget, I plan to work closely with my fellow board members and our new chair, Erica Williams, to reassess the PCAOB strategic plan and determine if additional staffing and resources may be needed in the months ahead. So again, I want to thank the board staff for making today's budget document a reality, and I'm pleased to support its submission to the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Thank you, Kara. Okay, well, unless there are any further comments or questions from the board, I will ask that all in favor of approving the recommendation, please say yes.
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 All right, though I think that is unanimous. So the budget recommendation is approved. And that does conclude the PCAOB's open meeting for today. If there is no further business, this meeting is now adjourned. I want to thank you for your participation, and you may now disconnect from the teleconference. And have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.